Before you replace your alternator, try this $5 fix first. It saved me $600. Your battery light is on. The shop says your alternator is dead and quotes you $600 to replace it. But sometimes what looks like a dead alternator isn't the alternator at all. It's a bad connection or a worn belt, and the fix can cost about $5.20. Most people skip the one check that tells them which it is, and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Stick around, because I'm covering several cheap charging system fixes, not just one. Let me be straight, because that's the whole point of this channel. No cleaner and no spray revives a truly dead alternator. If the brushes are worn, the regulators fried, or the windings are burned out, it needs replacing. Full stop. What a $5 fix can do is restore a connection that was faking a dead alternator, a corroded ground, a loose belt, dirty terminals. That's the real version of this trick, and I'll show you how to tell the two apart so you don't waste a dime. Here's the plan. First, the main fix. Cleaning and tightening the charging system connections that imitate a dead alternator. Second, how to actually test whether your alternator is charging. Third, 2 more cheap fixes that solve the same symptoms. And stick around for the test that tells you in 2 minutes whether you can save the $600 or not. Let's talk about the main problem. Your alternator's job is to generate electricity while the engine runs, charging the battery and powering everything electrical. When charging drops, you see the battery light, dimming headlights, slow cranking after a drive, or electrical stuff acting strange. Those exact symptoms are what makes people, and some shops, declare the alternator dead. But here's the catch. The alternator doesn't work alone. It connects to the battery through cables, a main output wire, and critically, a ground path, usually a strap or cable bolting the engine to the chassis and battery. The whole system also depends on a belt, physically spinning the alternator. If any of those connections is corroded, loose, or the belt is glazed and slipping, the alternator can be perfectly healthy but unable to deliver its power. The result reads exactly like a failing alternator. Corroded or loose grounds are a classic culprit. The alternator might be pumping out current, but if the ground path is rusty or a strap is loose, the circuit can't complete properly and your charging system underperforms. A slipping belt does the same thing. The alternator can't spin fast enough to charge. Here's where it costs you. A shop sees the symptoms, maybe does a quick test, and recommends an alternator replacement, often $500 to $700 or more with parts and labor. If the real issue was a $10 belt or a corroded ground you could have cleaned for $5, that's a brutal overpay. I'm not saying shops do this on purpose, plenty are honest, but the misdiagnosis is common because the symptoms overlap so perfectly. Knowing how to check the cheap causes first is what keeps that $600 in your pocket. Now the main fix, step by step. Here's what you need: a wire brush or battery terminal brush for around $5 to $8, a wrench set to fit your connection bolts, gloves, eye protection, and optionally, some anti-corrosion terminal protectant or dielectric grease for a few dollars. A basic multimeter, $10 to $20, is the tool that ties this all together, and I'll use it in the next section. Safety first. Engine off, keys out before you touch anything. Wear gloves and eye protection. No open flames or sparks near the battery, since batteries can vent flammable gas. And keep your hands, tools, and loose clothing well clear of belts and pulleys. Only inspect the belt with the engine completely off. Step 1. Pop the hood and find the battery. Disconnect the negative terminal first to be safe while you work on connections. Loosen the clamp and set the cable aside so it can't touch the post. Step 2. Inspect and clean the battery terminals. If you see crusty white, blue, or green corrosion, scrub the posts and clamp insides with the brush until you see clean, shiny metal. A poor battery connection alone can mimic charging problems. Step 3, and this is the one most people skip. Find and clean the ground straps. Follow the negative battery cable to where it bolts to the chassis or engine block. There's usually a main engine-to-body ground strap too. These bolted connections corrode and loosen over the years. Unbolt them, wire brush the contact surfaces and the bolt until shiny, and bolt them back down tight. A bad ground is one of the most overlooked causes of charging and electrical gremlins, and cleaning it is nearly free. Step 4. Check the main alternator output wire where it connects, usually a heavier wire bolted to the back of the alternator. With the engine off, make sure that connection is clean and snug, not loose or corroded. Be gentle and don't force anything. Step 5. Inspect the belt. With the engine off, look at the belt that drives the alternator. Is it cracked, shiny and glazed, or frayed? Press on it midway between pulleys. It should feel firm with only a little give. If it's loose, glazed, or cracked, that's likely your problem. We'll cover the belt fix in detail shortly. Step 6. Reconnect the battery. Positive first if you removed it, negative last. Apply a thin film of protectant to the terminals to keep corrosion from coming back. Snug, not over-tightened. Step 7. Start the car and see if the battery light is gone and the car runs normally. But don't trust your eyes alone, because the real proof is in the voltage test, which is next. So what should you realistically expect? I'll undersell it on purpose. If your charging symptoms were caused by a corroded ground, a loose connection, or a dirty terminal, cleaning them up can restore normal charging completely, and that's a $5 save against a $600 quote. It happens, and it feels great when it does. But I'm going to be honest, this only works if the alternator itself is actually fine. If the alternator's internals are worn out, no cleaning brings it back. Cleaning connections can't fix dead brushes or a failed voltage regulator inside the unit. So think of this section as ruling out the cheap causes, the smart, free-to-cheap first move before you spend big. If you clean everything and the charging is still low, you've lost almost nothing and you've narrowed it down. And the very next step is the test that tells you for certain which camp you're in, which is exactly what saved me from buying an alternator I didn't need. Related fix number 1. Actually testing the charging system with a multimeter. This is the test that ends the guessing. A multimeter costs $10 to $20 and pays for itself the first time. With the engine off, set it to DC volts and measure across the battery terminals. A healthy rested battery reads around 12.6 volts. Now start the engine and measure again. With the engine running, you should see roughly 13.7 to 14.7 volts. That range means the alternator is charging. If you see that, your alternator is doing its job, and your problem is probably elsewhere: a battery, a connection, or a drain. If instead the voltage stays down around 12 or drops while running, the alternator isn't charging properly, and now you have real evidence, not a guess. You can take it further. Turn on the headlights, the AC, the rear defroster, load the system up, and watch the voltage with the engine running. A healthy system holds voltage in that charging range under load. If it sags badly, that points to a struggling alternator or a belt slipping under load, and most auto parts stores will test your charging system for free in the parking lot. They hook up a tester that reads the alternator's output directly. Clean your connections first so the test is accurate. This single test is the difference between confidently fixing the right thing and throwing $600 at the wrong one. Related fix number 2, the serpentine belt and tensioner. The belt is what physically spins your alternator. If it's worn, glazed, or loose, the alternator can't keep up, and you get charging problems plus often a squealing noise, especially on startup or when you load the electrical system. A new serpentine belt is surprisingly cheap, often $15 to $30, and on many cars it's a doable driveway job with basic tools. Here's how it goes on a typical car. The belt routes around several pulleys with a spring-loaded automatic tensioner keeping it tight. You use a wrench or breaker bar on the tensioner to release tension, slip the old belt off, and route the new one exactly the same way. This is critical. Before you remove the old belt, take a photo of the routing, or find the belt diagram, often printed on a sticker under the hood. Get the routing wrong, and things won't work. Many cars have the diagram right there for you. While you're in there, check the tensioner itself. If it's weak or the pulley bearing is noisy, the belt won't stay tight, and a tensioner can be replaced for a modest cost too. A glazed or slipping belt is one of the most satisfying cheap fixes because it solves a problem that looks expensive. But be realistic about your comfort level. If the routing is complex or access is tight on your car, this is still a reasonable thing to pay a shop a small labor charge for, and it's nowhere near alternator money. Now let's bust the viral fake versions of this, because some are flat wrong and a couple can hurt you. Myth number 1, the big one this video is built around, that spraying cleaner or some additive into the alternator revives a dead one. It doesn't. If the alternator's internals are gone, a cleaner can't rebuild brushes or a regulator. The only thing cleaning fixes is the connections around it. Don't let a video convince you a spray rebuilds a worn-out alternator. Myth number 2, that you can just disconnect the negative battery terminal while the engine's running to test the alternator. People used to do this on old cars, but on modern vehicles it can cause a voltage spike that damages sensitive electronics. Don't do it. Use a multimeter across the battery instead. It's safer and more accurate. Myth number 3, that a bigger or high output alternator fixes a normal charging problem. If your factory alternator and connections are healthy, they charge fine. Throwing a pricey high output unit at a corroded ground just wastes money. The ground's still bad. And myth number 4, that the battery light only ever means the alternator. That light signals a charging system issue broadly, which includes the belt, the connections, the grounds, and the battery, not just the alternator. Treating it as an automatic alternator death sentence is exactly how people overpay. Test before you replace. Let's cover the common mistakes that cost money or cause damage. Mistake 1. Replacing the alternator without testing first. Always do the voltage test or get the free parts store test before spending. Mistake 2. Ignoring the grounds. A corroded ground strap is cheap to fix and easy to miss, and it causes baffling electrical problems. Don't overlook it. Mistake 3. Disconnecting the battery with the engine running to test things. Again, risky on modern cars. Skip it. Mistake 4. Getting belt routing wrong or under-tensioning the new belt. Take the photo, follow the diagram. Mistake 5. Replacing only the alternator when the real issue was the battery, or vice versa. A weak battery and a weak alternator can each drag the other down, so test both. Throwing parts at symptoms without testing is the fastest way to spend $600 and still have the problem. Here's the honest caveat. These fixes are perfect for ruling out cheap causes and for connection or belt problems. But sometimes the alternator really is dead, and that's okay. It's a normal wear item. If your voltage test clearly shows it's not charging and the belt and grounds are good, replace the alternator. If you smell burning, see smoke, hear a grinding bearing noise from the alternator, or have repeated failures you can't trace, get a professional involved. And modern cars with complex electrical systems sometimes need a proper scan tool to diagnose charging faults. Cheap fixes are for the common, simple causes, not for a unit that's actually failed. Let's recap. What looks like a dead alternator is often a corroded ground, a loose connection, or a worn belt, and cleaning or a cheap belt can fix that for a few dollars instead of $600. A $10 multimeter or a free parts store test tells you for certain whether the alternator is charging, and the belt that spins it is a cheap, often overlooked culprit. If this saved you money, hit like and subscribe, because the next video is one a lot of you asked for. How to tell a bad alternator from a bad battery from a bad starter in under 5 minutes so you replace the right part the first time. I'll see you there. Ton.